So hi everyone. Today I am going to talk about the API gateway. So why was this API gateway found or formed? So whenever you have a front end, right, you communicate towards the servers. Suppose you have a 20 microservices, services. So let's remove microservices, only 20 services. So what you need to do is your front-end application will communicate to 20 services. It is very difficult to config, config in your front end, and it's very difficult to look into the logs or debug everything. So it will be very difficult to handle it. So because of this, there is something called API gateway which came in. So what it is? So it is a API gateway which is behind the services. Here you can have multiple services, like it can be 20 as we were talking about, but let's go with it. So this will communicate to all these services. So this is why we use API gateway and here front end, right? So here in front end you can only write one DNS. That will be like any API or DNS. DNS can be something like test.com. Rather than writing all the this like going towards like this, it's better to have one DNS that will be the test.com. That will be a API gateway. Or else you have to write all the DNS plus DNS.com plus what is the route, everything. So you have to write all these things. This is very difficult to configure for each and every service, as this will be like 20. So 20 services. It's very difficult. So because of this, API gateway came in. Now, what is it only this advantage do we have? No, there are multiple other things. In API gateway, what you can do is API gateway, you what you can do is there are multiple things here. One is you can check authentication, you can check rate limiter, you can also log, you can also have a routing also. Let me go through these things one by one. Authentication. So whenever the front end comes in and request you some request, right? You have to authenticate this user. Authenticate this user. Is he really going towards your service, or you can reject there itself rather than losing your service, using your resources here. Just to give work, you should not give work if it's not authorized. So this is one thing we can use. Rate limiter. Suppose what happens here is some spammer. He is hitting your API gateway simply. Like not simply, like he wants to hack your this thing. Like he might be sending username and password to check if you are valid, if you can go check your server and see if the DB, all these are like a costly process. So what this API gateway can also do is he will check the API, he will check the IP of the user. If he is sending more than like 100 requests or 50 or 20 or like 5 requests in per second, he can limit it, or he can limit it, or per second or per minute, he can only send these many requests. Those type of things also you can do it. That is called rate limiter. And logging. So logging is definitely needed whenever someone is coming to your API gateway, right? You have to log it, everything. What calls are you getting? What response are you sending back? What request is coming? All these things you need to also save it, because whenever you get something like some user may come and tell, I had sent the correct request. but the response is coming wrong. Or he might also tell, I'm sending the correct request, but you are not sending me the response. At that time, we can always go to the logs and check what is wrong and what went wrong or what went right. So this is why we can always use the API gateway to log rather than we log everything in the service, the 20 service what we were talking. Rather than there, you can also log it in your API. Only the API request and response you can log, not all the app logs and all in the API gateway. Okay, next thing was routes. So how does API gateway know? Like here is the API gateway. And how will it know that there is a 20 service and it has to go to proper service? Like this can be order, this can be user, this can be product, cart, or this can be like asynchronous tags, like a event. We would keep it. So how will API know? API gateway know? It has to go here. It has to go here. It has to go to products. It has to go to the cart itself. There is something called routes. In API gateway itself, we would write something like route order, order, and ID is equal to and user name is equal to Ganesh, something like this. So whenever you are getting route like this, API gateway is very smart because we have configured it over there. It will always go to the order. And whenever we get user, it is as I told you, we would have configured it very well. So API gateway will go to the users. This is how API gateway can also help in these ways. Okay. So now what I would like to tell you is what are the popular API gateways? Popular API gateways. What I'm telling you is by how you can configure this. One is these are all the famous Kong and NGINX. I have worked on this. You can ask me any questions in the comments. I would be able to help you guys. Or if you want me to make another video on NGINX, I can do it. AWS API Gateway, API Gateway. Yeah, so these are the main, what I have seen is these are the things which people use it very regularly. Okay. See, okay, when we have this API gateway, right? Everything is dependent on this single service, API gateway, and here comes the services. What happens if API gateway goes down? So this is the biggest problem, right? The front end, the front end is not able to communicate to this, and it is stuck here itself. So in this case, what you can do is you can have a one of the load balancer concept, which I have explained in the earlier videos. What you can do is you can have a two API gateways so that load balancer check, if you have too many requests on the first API gateway, it will send it to the second. Or two is very busy, it will send it to you. It will send it to the first API gateway. And what you can also do is you can route it to the same services, a user order. You can route it to the same services. And also, if you want it to be very scaled, I have seen it in very less system design architecture. In many companies, I have seen it many less. What people do is this is API one gateway, API two gateway, load balancer. Load balancer is connected here. And again, as I told you, it will check. We have one service, second service, one, two service. So what people also do is they will have the services horizontally mapped. This two service itself, they would have three services, and here comes the load balancer again. This will connect here to make it more reliable, scalable. So this is also one of the concept where they do actually. This goes connects here, and there will be multiple instances. Here also you can scale. If one goes down or one is having more requests, this load balancer is responsible to check and deliver it to the proper services where which services are free. So this is also the one of the concept which higher end companies do, because they will be having billions of requests. At that time, this will help you guys. Okay, this is what I wanted to convey. Thank you.